When do you think you did really truly find your own voice as a writer?
Maybe after the Plimsolls. I don't know. Maybe Oldest Story in the World. I don't know. Maybe when I was a kid and I wrote a few songs as a kid that older people really liked. I wrote, maybe when I was 15, I guess, I wrote a song called Just Hanging On. It's on one of my albums, but I did it on guitar and you're supposed to do it on piano. So I wrote some songs then that I thought, that were really my voice. And then, when you find out, that's a good song and it's musically sort of a thing, but that was really informed a lot by learning Beatles songs. But stuff like Shaky City, I don't think that had really been much stuff like that. It's sort of a combination of lyrics that you really wanted to be heard in a way, Oldest Story in the World that really tells a story about, in a real, compelled way, that really wants to be heard, and not so much Million Miles Away, though it's a good song, but I feel like Oldest Story and Shaky City and then on, like the first song that really just exploded onto me in that period, it was hard writing for the Plimsolls, and then when I went solo, all of a sudden all these songs started to really just like show up, and like one day that song Walk in the Woods just showed up, and that song was like a completely like my kind of song, and all those songs on my first solo record, which came out again last year, and you can get, and it's got like 7 bonus tracks and all this stuff. T-Bone Burnett produced it, and it's, I got a 5-star review from Rolling Stone. Everybody thought I was going to be a big star at that one again too, different. But the record company, like, they were mad at me because I wasn't playing rock and roll, But like I had this vision that it could be this whole other thing. I was basically the first person of my generation to do the singer-songwriter thing again after it had gone out of favor in the 70s. I was the first person really, you could even, like some people say I'm the first Americana artist, and that may be true. Definitely the first one that went back and did the singer-songwriter thing on that album and tried to give it a whole new sound and birth and like a modern contemporary feel without some of the things that weighed it down, like the the oversensitivity that was experienced by some of the California singer-songwriters that some of us found in rock and roll found so off-putting, because in rock and roll, like, you don't want to hear too much whining, and so there's none of that on my albums, but that first album, I know that's really my sound and my thing,
Well, last question is, hypothetically, if you could see any rock show from the past, or just rock artist, who would you choose and why?
I don't know. Any rock artist from history? I don't know, man. I guess the most interesting thing for me would be to see Robert Johnson or Skip James in his prime, or Big Joe Williams in his prime, or those would all be important to me. But they're not really rock acts, so I would have liked to seen Woody Guthrie. He's not really a rock act. And for rock and roll, Elvis with Bill Black and Scotty would have been pretty cool. Bo Diddley, I saw him play, but he was great. I never did see Chuck Berry. I've never even seen the Rolling Stones. The Beatles I never saw. The Who I've never seen. I'm not really, I wasn't really, like when I was living on the street during the period when a lot of great shows were happening, so like the 70s, and I didn't really I'd play out in the street outside the concerts, but it was rare that I was actually inside them. I only went and saw like my super favorites, like I saw Doug Sahm, and saw him play with the quintet. It's one of the best gigs I've ever seen. I've seen Leighton Hopkins play. When I was a kid, I hitchhiked to Boston and saw him play. Bob Dylan, I've seen play some great shows. I never saw him with the Hawks or anything. I must have been excited to see the Beatles in Hamburg, or that probably was good. Early Who at those mod clubs, I guess must have been pretty exciting. In America, I don't know, the great American bands. I've seen a lot of such great rock and roll in America. I think maybe America's rock and roll became greatest in the 70s live. Bands like the Blasters. I feel like my band probably competes with these bands, but like there were certain bands you go see them and they just levitate the place like 5 feet off the ground. The whole building would fly. I mean, like the Blasters, Los Lobos, X. You know, the Plimsolls, I think, did that. You just feel like the place was flying. Like you'd be in the Whiskey a Go-Go, it'd be like being on a rocket ship. You know, you just felt like the place was like, you know, like Wizard of Oz, like a house flying through the air or something, you know. And those were a lot of my favorite gigs. The Ramones was so exciting to see in '77 when we showed up on that tour and playing the gigs with them. And like, you know, to me that was almost like playing with the Beatles. I loved them so much, you know. And so that was very exciting.
Rock Cellar TV, 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 Rock Cellar TV.